for your listening enjoyment, John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Ben Herder, Johnny. How does your blood pressure react to hobnobbing with nobility?
Well, so far, I don't feel a thing.
How are you going to? Nothing like the beautiful Baroness Olga Jarvas to provide impact.
How much of a jolt has she given you?
Around $100,000. Jewels and furs. Stolen from a New York penthouse last night. But get this. 2 marriages ago, the Baroness was a Mrs. Thomas Bentley. Last week, Bentley filed a petition in bankruptcy. His commercial photography outfit's about $100,000 in the red.
Well, one coincidence doesn't make a fraudulent claim.
If you read the gossip columns at night,
Why is that?
then you'd know what beautiful Baroness has been seen billing and cooing with what broke ex-husband.
Well, it's kind of late to scoop George Fisher now, but I'll try. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Eastern Indemnity and Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Bilked Baroness Matter. Expense account item 1, $6.35. Gas and oil, sandwich, and coffee between Hartford and New York. The penthouse of the Baroness Olga Jarvas lay atop a 35-story granite and glass apartment hotel on the east side. I ran the gauntlet of suspicious doorman, supercilious desk clerk, and snobbish elevator boy, only to find myself in what was destined to be a short-lived interview with the Baroness.
I am so terribly sorry, Mr. Dollar, but you have come at a most inopportune time. Oh, that careless maid of mine. It is her day off. I am rushing to attend a cocktail party, and I simply cannot find a thing. Not one thing. It is a most inopportune moment.
Well, I wouldn't want to keep you from a cocktail party, Baroness, but there is some information I'd like to have.
But I have told everything I know to the police. So why not run along like a dear man and get your information from them, huh? Oh, my gloves. Oh, that stupid maid. Where did she put my gloves?
Well, while you're looking, maybe you can tell me when you first noticed the loss?
It was when I returned home last night, of course. Just 2, 3 in the morning. I pay no attention to time. The police will know. I called them immediately.
Mm-hmm. Anybody with you when you came back home?
My dear man, is all this questioning absolutely necessary? After all, I did not steal my own furs and jewels. Now, why do you not go after the criminals who are responsible?
Well, some cooperation from you might help me do that.
Very well. I will tell you all I know. Early last evening, I had a few friends up for drinks. We left for the theater at approximately 8 o'clock. Afterwards, there was the supper club. Dinner, dancing. I came home. My things were gone.
Anyone come up with you?
If you must know, yes. Thomas got me home.
That's Thomas Bentley, your former husband?
Yes, of course. Now, you simply must excuse me, Mr. Dollar. I'm terribly late. My friends will never forgive me.
You sound more worried about your friends than you do about the robbery.
But, of course, the loss of dear friends is irreplaceable. But so far as those trinkets and furs are concerned...
Yeah, I know. You're insured. Expense account item 2, $15. 5 apiece to the employees I'd met on the way up. But outside of learning that Olga's penthouse was a gathering place for practically every screwball in New York, I came up with nothing. Things turned out a little better over at Center Street, where I met Lieutenant Lewison of robbery, who was in charge of the investigation.
Looks like an inside job to me, Dollar.
Well, what's the dope on it, Lieutenant?
Only 2 doors to the penthouse, front and service. Neither one was forced. Service door bolted and double locked from the inside.
So someone got in the front way with a key, huh?
Seems reasonable. Outside of the furs and jewels, nothing else in the apartment was touched. Whoever did it knew exactly where to go. No ransacking. The job was well planned and well carried out.
You got a list of those who have keys?
Oh, you can't possibly narrow them down. The Baroness hands them out to her friends like tossing confetti at a New Year's party. We checked the obvious ones, maid, hotel employees. Haven't come up with a thing.
There were 2 full-length coats, 2 jackets, and a stole among the missing furs.
That's right.
Well, now, the jewelry might not be too hard to handle, but how did anybody get out with a load of fur like that and not be noticed?
I don't think it's possible. Another thing that makes it look like an inside job. The Baroness telling me she had some friends up last night?
Yeah, she mentioned it.
Didn't happen to mention Vasily Udescu, did she?
No. Should she have?
He was one of them. The doorman tells us that while the rest of the party came down around 8, Udescu didn't leave till 11:30.
Might be interesting to know why, huh?
Yeah, particularly in view of the fact he's got a record. Suspected confidence game on a Fifth Avenue jewelry store, suspicion of shoplifting furs, no conviction. Could be we'll close this as soon as we pick him up.
Maybe.
Why the doubt? You know something we don't?
Yeah. I haven't had an easy case in 3 years. And I don't think you've had too many either. My next stop was East 56th Street in the commercial art studios of Thomas Bentley. Inside the converted brownstone, a lovely blonde in fur parka and ski pants was posing on a big heap of artificial snow under the glare of sweltering lights.
All right, move the number 3 spot about a half foot to the left there, Joey. A little more. Oh, yeah, that's it. All right. Now, smile, darling. Make like you were enjoying it. No. I said smile. Try thinking of a nice, cold, extra dry martini at Antoine. That's it. Hold it. Good. Set up for the next shot, boys. Okay, Mr.
Are you Tom Bentley?
Yeah. What can I do for you?
My name is Johnny Dollar, insurance investigator.
Oh, you want to talk about that stuff of Olga's?
That's right.
Well, make it some other time, Dollar. I'm pretty busy right now.
Yeah, I was wondering
Well, what?
how you could be in full operation when you're supposed to be dead broke.
Trying to figure some tie-in between the $100,000 of insurance and my bankruptcy petition?
Might not be too big a jump.
The beautiful Baroness always moves onward and upward, Dollar.
You better break that down for me.
I was only sucker number 2 on a list of 4 husbands. How could I top number 4?
The Baron Jarvas?
Legitimate title, bulging with boodle. And he kicked off after 1 year under the strain of keeping up with Olga. Believe me, she hasn't the slightest inclination of getting involved in fraud to help out sucker number 2.
Then how come you're making a play for her again?
My motives are purely mercenary. All I want from her is a loan of about $20,000. That would hold off the creditors until I get back on my feet.
How are you making out?
So far, no dash.
Well, your place is open.
A deal with the creditors. I draw a measly $100 a week until they get paid off, if they ever do. So, that's my story, Dollar. I know from nothing, believe me.
Oh, I'm sorry to bother you, Tom, but Joe says they're ready on the next sit-up.
Oh, okay, Harley. I'll be right there.
I wanted you to take a look at this leopard skin costume for the jungle shot.
Oh, what about it?
Well, take a look at the way the thing fits. It's ridiculous. Doesn't give me a chance to really expand my chest. I was thinking if I wore some kind of loincloth instead, it would give you the opportunity to shoot all my muscles in place.
I'll think about it, Harley.
Well, I brought one along with me just in case, Tom. I'll put it on for you. No sense in hiring a 44 chest if you're not going to show it off. And with loincloth, you can show the muscular play of my entire body.
Okay, Harley. Tell Joe I'll be in there in a minute.
Sure, Tom. And I'll change costumes meanwhile.
Model. Good Lord, how do they make them that way? Body of a Hercules and the mind of a second-class 8.
Well, I guess we all have our troubles, Mr. Bentley. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, sure. It's okay, Dollar. Oh, Dollar.
Yeah?
Where are you staying in town?
At the plaza. Why?
Well, I understand insurance companies offer rewards for recovery of stolen property. Something like 20%, isn't it?
Sometimes, yeah.
And no questions asked?
Got something in mind, Mr. Bentley?
Just wondering.
It was getting late in the day and time for the inner man to be cared for. So I headed for the Plaza Bar. En route, I stopped to telephone Lieutenant Lewison.
You know, Dollar, this case might not be so tough at that.
What have you come up with, Lieutenant?
Vasily Udescu picked him up 20 minutes ago.
Don't tell me he confessed.
No, not that, baby.
I didn't think it could be that easy.
No, it's not. We'll just have to be satisfied with the stolen jewelry we found in his apartment.
It is an impossibility, a most indignant outrage. Me, Vasily Udescu, being accused like a criminal element. I will sue you before the court for every penny you have.
You said that before, Udescu.
And I will say it again and again until you have released me.
What have you got on him, Lieutenant?
Exhibits A and B, Dollar. 1 emerald ring, 1 diamond bracelet. Look familiar?
They were covered under August policy, all right.
I do not care what is covered by weight. I do not know those things. I do not know how they got into my apartment. And I want to call my attorney.
Well, at least I can believe the last part of that.
You were at the Baroness's last night, weren't you?
And why should I not be? We are the most dear of friends.
Well, the rest of the party left for the theater at 8 o'clock. You didn't leave until somewhere around 11:30.
11:30. And this is a criminal act, I presume?
No, but it might require a little explanation.
Yes, so I had seen the play they were going to do. Why should I be bored all over again? I remained there, comfortable, having some drinks until it was time to join them at the Leglon.
Uh-huh. How'd you get the furs out of the building?
I took no furs nowhere out of no building.
How about the rest of the jury?
I know nothing about you. And I will say no more until I have talked to my attorney. So.
Okay, Udescu. This way. In here. Sergeant Ryan will let you make the call. After he gets through, Ryan, book him on suspicion of
Believe
robbery.
me, you will regret this, Lieutenant. I will commence proceedings to sue you as well.
Yeah, okay, Udescu. What do you think, Dollar?
Well, you've got enough to book him on.
Meaning it's not enough for you?
No, not quite.
How do you figure?
Well, that bracelet appraises around 10,000, the ring around 3. I've still got 87,000 to go. Expense account item 3, $1.50. Double scotch at the Plaza Bar. I could have saved the double. Halfway through, I was called to the phone.
Tom Bentley, Dollar. Come over here to the studio right away.
Why?
I've got something for you on Olga's robbery.
Oh, what's that?
I just happen to know where the loot is.
I'll be right there, Bentley.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
I put in a call to Lewison, and after violating some minor traffic regulations and the composure of a few New York drivers, I pulled up in front of Tom Bentley's studios. The headquarters car was parked out in front, and Lewison was waiting for me just inside.
Oh, it didn't take you very long, Dollar.
No, I caught all the lights.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Bentley?
Back here. The funny thing about people,
Well, what's that?
if they'd stop trying to chisel the law, they'd save themselves a lot of trouble. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Size of the hole in him looks like it came from that .375 Magnum Winchester on the floor over there.
A rifle of that caliber is more suited for hunting elephants than a job like this.
Bentley probably used it as a prop. Looks like they were taking some jungle shots in the studio.
Adds a few complications, doesn't it? After homicide arrived, Lewison and I went back to headquarters. Baroness Olga Jarbosh was there with a cute blonde by the name of Herta Werner. I recognized Herta as the model Tom Bentley had been using in the snow scenes. The Baroness had as little trouble recognizing the ring and bracelet.
But of course they are mine, Lieutenant. Most definitely mine. I cannot understand how Vasily could do such a thing. Such a wonderful dancer, such marvelous parties. Oh, that he should do something like this is positively heartbreaking.
I have a formal complaint sheet here, Baroness. I'd like you to sign it.
But of course I will. Imagine Vasily doing such a thing to me. Turning out to be a common thief this way. Of course I will sign it.
Maybe you're being a little hasty about this, Olga.
Oh?
What makes you say that, Miss Werner?
I was just thinking. Lieutenant, you found the bracelet and ring in Vasily's apartment?
That's right.
I don't suppose they were in that teakwood cabinet in the den, were they?
What makes you think that?
Olga, remember that party at Vasily's a week or 10 days ago? The crazy one where he got the idea for that taffy pull?
How could I forget? It was the best party we had all season. A simply wonderful one.
What are you driving at, Miss Werner?
It's simple enough, Lieutenant. If you've ever been to a taffy pull.
Yeah, rings sort of get in the way, don't they?
Bracelets can, too, if you're really in the mood for it.
Oh, but of course. How forgetful can I be? Of course, the ring and bracelet were in the way.
So you took them off and put them in that teakwood cabinet?
Yes, Yes, that is exactly what I did. I had completely forgotten about them. How sweet of you to remember, Hector.
You reported them missing on that itemized robbery list you gave us.
Oh, naturally I did, Lieutenant. There was a robbery. They were missing. Of course I included them. Oh, poor dear Vasily. What an injustice I nearly did to him. To think I was about to sign a complaint that he was nothing but a common thief. Oh, but now everything will be all right for him again.
Yeah. Miss Werner's got a remarkable memory for the whereabouts of other people's jewels. The Baroness signed a statement covering the facts about the ring and the bracelet. It was witnessed with a flourish by her to Werner and more sedately by myself. Then the two of them left.
Well, there it is, Dollar. If those two weren't lying, Vasily Udescu is in the clear.
Well, even if they were, he couldn't have killed Tom Bentley.
Yeah. I wonder if homicide come up with anything.
Anything new about the employees at August Building?
Their alibis are checking out one by one. Doesn't look like we've... Lewis and robbery. Anything turn up on that Bentley killing on 56th Street? Uh-huh. Yeah, well, keep us posted. No, not much help there. Seems pretty certain the .375 Winchester did the trick. Ballistics will verify in about an hour. No prints on it. So far, no witnesses. Looks like we're right back where we started from.
Expense account item 4, $1.45, cab fare. Driving my own car, I knew I'd never have found that little back street on the far side of Greenwich Village.
Oh, there, Mr. Dollar. Come in. I've been expecting you.
Yeah, I gathered that.
You look like the type who'd be sharp enough to get what I meant. Back at police headquarters.
Well, the way you underlined your address on that statement and then batted your eyes at me wasn't exactly subtle.
It wasn't meant to be.
Well, now that that's settled, what do you want to tell me about the robbery? And how much do you want?
Not very subtle yourself, are you?
You weren't thinking about my personality when you issued that invitation.
No, I was thinking about $1,000.
You've got expensive ideas.
$100,000 loss is even more expensive.
Mm-hmm. You know where the stuff is?
If I could tell you that, I'd ask for 20%.
Oh, what can you tell me?
Come here into the den, Mr. Dollar.
Yeah, sure.
I can't show you any etchings. But there's some pretty fine photos hanging on the walls. What do you think of them?
Yeah, very nice. But I like my cheesecake on the feminine side. Hey, didn't I see that massive muscle down at Bentley's earlier today?
You did. His name's Harley Townsend.
Your boyfriend?
My husband.
Oh, congratulations.
Don't bother. He won't be for long. What that big ham has on his mind are his muscles and other people's money.
What's he got to do with the 1,000 you had on your mind?
Plenty. He has a key to August penthouse. He was with a dinner party last night, only he left late around about 12:30 and came back at 1:30 with Tom Bentley. Starting to add up to 1,000, Mr. Dollar?
Not yet.
Then try this. Tom Bentley called him around 7 tonight. Harley blew up. Said he wouldn't settle for 10,000 when he could get 50. And Bentley better wait for him and get over there. And he tore out of here fast. And he took some of these cartridges with him.
Pretty big caliber.
So are the rifles of Harley's they were using at the studio.
Where's Harley now?
I haven't the slightest idea.
You're not telling everything you know.
Maybe not, but you can't prove it. And I'm not interested in being booked as an accessory. Hmm?
Sounds reasonable. Expense account item 5, $1.75. Cab fare back to Center Street.
So Herta Werner came up with something, huh, Dollar?
Well, if $1,000 is the going price on selling out husbands, she is.
Might tie in at that if Harley and Tom Bentley worked it together. Bentley wants to take a safe $20,000 for turning the stuff back, and Harley objects with a .375 Winchester.
I can't think of another answer.
We'll check it out when we pick Harley up. Not much we can do until then.
We could try to figure how those furs got out of the building without being seen.
I got a couple of possible answers. They could have been worn out on some woman's back or smuggled out by an employee.
Mm-hmm. Say, a lot of those buildings have their service pickups at night, don't they?
Yeah? Saves traffic jams. Why?
Well, somebody posing as a cleaner or storage man could have carried them out without anyone paying too much attention.
I thought of that too, Dollar. Trouble is, the side street the service entrance opens on was torn up for repairs. No service calls or deliveries were made yesterday or last night.
When is that repair job supposed to be over?
Sometime late this afternoon or tonight. Why?
Well, then maybe our boy could still use the serviceman gag.
Not unless the stuff is still in the building.
You know, that's a thought, Lieutenant. The side street by the Baroness's apartment building might have been under repair yesterday, but there was nothing wrong with it by the time we got there. We went into the service entrance and checked with the night superintendent who was on the door.
Yeah, that's right, Lieutenant. Street was fixed about 5 in the afternoon. Been getting regular service calls since then.
Do you keep a checklist of those calls?
Yeah, sure thing. Right over here. Check 'em in and out. I don't see much sense to it, but we do. Well, here it is.
Anything unusual about any of the tradesmen?
Don't know what you call unusual, Lieutenant. A poster came in. 3, 4 florist boys. Always get a lot of them. Some cleaners. Liquor delivered to a couple of apartments. Usual run.
Anybody take any packages out?
Well, I wouldn't know about that particularly. I don't pay much attention. Coming in and out all the time. Guess maybe the laundryman's going to take something out, though. He usually does.
What laundryman is that?
New fella. Don't think I ever saw him before. Real big he is. Kind of busting out of uniform. Nice enough fellow, though.
Could be Harley.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What laundry was he from?
I don't think I noticed. Just saw he was a new one. Yeah, if you want to know, why don't you ask him?
You know where we can find him?
Sure. He only checked in maybe 10 minutes ago. Probably down in the basement laundry room right now.
The laundry room, lined with wooden storage compartments and cluttered up with washing machines, dryers, and tubs, looked like a mad welter of confusion under the dim night lights.
See him, Dollar?
No, not yet.
He's got to be down here somewhere. There's no other way out. One of the storage compartments.
Yeah, down at the end. Hey, there he is. It's Harley. Pushing that laundry cart.
Yeah.
Okay, Harley, stop right there. Police officers.
Watch it, Lieutenant.
Don't drive, Harley. Stop that gun.
He should have listened, Lieutenant.
Yeah. There they are, Dollar. The furs under the laundry. Jewelry, too. Must have kept them in an empty storage room overnight.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of us had better sharpen up on the target range.
Hmm?
There's a bullet hole through the sleeve of this mink.
That'll cost your outfit something, Dollar.
Well, under the circumstances, I don't think they'll mind. Expense account item 6, $19.30. Hotel bill and miscellaneous. Expense account item 7, $5.10. Gas and oil back to Hartford. Expense account total, $50.45. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Jeff Connors, Johnny.
Oh, hi, Jeff. I haven't heard from
What
you.
are the chances of you making it down here to Dallas real fast like, huh?
Well, I never knew you to be in a hurry, Jeff.
It's a firebug, Johnny. 4 fires in 4 weeks. Total claims to date, 95,000. This keeps up, I ain't got no job left. You just gotta get out here tonight.
You're kind of rushing things, aren't you?
Well, it ain't me, Johnny O. It's the firebug. Thought you'd like to be here when number 5 goes up. That means you got to be in on the 10 o'clock flight.
Don't tell me he works on schedule.
Every Tuesday night at 11 o'clock, whoosh. What do you say, pal?
I'll be there.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John Lund in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Friends, the makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum present these weekly adventures of Johnny Dollar because they know that millions of you enjoy Johnny Dollar. That's true of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, too. It's enjoyed by millions, day in and day out. People find that chewing on a smooth, delicious piece of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum somehow makes time pass more pleasantly. Whether you're working, driving, shopping, or just taking things easy, that good, tasty chewing gives you enjoyment and satisfaction. So always keep a package of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. And whenever you want a refreshing, delicious treat, chew a stick. You'll like it. You really will.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Eastern Indemnity and Fire Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Punctilious Firebug Matter. Expense account item 1, $113.20. Airfare between Hartford and Dallas, Texas. Your Southwestern States manager, Jeff Connors, met the 10 o'clock flight at Love Airport and drove me down to your offices on South Acard Street.
There they are, Johnny. Number 1, candy store out northwest. Number 2, 2 family residence on the east side. 3, small factory out on Commerce Avenue. And 4, garage and repair shop out southwest. Grand total of claims is $95,000, and it's all yours.
These all follow the same time pattern.
Every one. Comes Tuesday night around 11 o'clock, and that firebug just naturally lights up.
All new policies, Jeff. Written within the past 6 weeks to 2 months.
That's right. Ink hardly gets cold on the premium checks when it gets all hotted up again on the claims.
Any connection between the policy holders?
Can't find one if there is. All in different businesses, different parts of the city. The whole thing just don't make sense.
It does if the bug is in your own organization.
Yeah, that's what Len Borchardt says.
Who's Borchard?
Detective Lieutenant, Arson Division. He's been working on it.
How's he making out?
Well, I got 10 men out in the field, 2 gals in the office here, lots of alibis to check out. Takes time. So far, there's no reason to suspect anybody.
Those fires are reason enough.
But, man, why'd anybody want to do anything like that?
Well, when it comes to firebugs, who knows? Could have a grudge against you or the company.
Or maybe just like to see them flames shoot up, huh?
That's as good a reason as any.
Well, whatever it is, we sure got to get this boy, Johnny. If this kind of thing keeps up, I'll be losing my job, my home, my wife, and everything else I... Mm-hmm. What's the time, Johnny?
It's 4 minutes after 11.
Wouldn't want to lay a little bet why this phone's ringing at this time of night, would you? Eastern Indemnity, Connors. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that figured. Wait till I get that address. That's, wait a minute. That's 725 East Westchester. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thanks, Lieutenant. Be seeing you.
Number 5?
Yep. Big apartment building out in Westchester.
You're sure it's one of yours?
Wrote the policy on it myself 4 days ago.
Well, let's get out there and have a look, huh?
That's sure a goner.
Yeah, there's another one you're going to write off.
You can say... Oh, there's Len Borchard over there. Didn't know he'd be down here so quick.
Well, let's hear what he's got to say.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Lieutenant. You got down here right fast.
Seems reasonable to, Mr. Connors. Not that there's much I can do before she cools down. That won't be before morning.
I'd like you to meet Johnny Dollar, Lieutenant, one of our investigators from the east. Johnny, this Lieutenant Len Borchard.
Glad to know you, Lieutenant.
Looks like our firebug didn't waste any time showing himself off to you, Mr. Dollar.
No question about it being torched.
Well, like I said, I won't be able to get in there until morning. But when you figure the pattern, where that fire roared up and took hold, no doubt in my mind.
Who reported it?
A fellow by the name of Hendrickson at the second floor apartment west. Called in from a hallway telephone.
What kind of a story did he give you?
He didn't. Got trapped up there on the second floor, suffering third-degree burns and shock. He's not in any shape to talk to anyone. Don't know that I care to be around when he is fit to talk, though.
Oh, why's that?
His wife and 2 kids, they're still in that fire somewhere.
Jeff Connors went back to the office to wire his preliminary report to Hartford, while I stayed around to see if anything would turn up. By 1:30 a.m., the only thing we learned was that our only possible witness, Hendrickson, had died en route to the hospital. A preliminary check of the record seemed to indicate that the fire had started in the basement, but it was still too hot to check into thoroughly, so Lieutenant Borchard drove me back downtown.
I'll dig into it in the morning, Dollar. I can tell you right now what I'll find.
Oh, what's that, Lieutenant?
There'll be 4 or 5 hot spots indicating the use of kerosene, gasoline, something like that. An amount of paraffin drippings.
Sounds like a candle's used for a slow fuse.
That's what we figured. Found the same drippings in all the other fires.
Any idea how slow a fuse it is?
Looks like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Gives a bug plenty of time to get away, fix himself up, and alibis somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Connors says you think it's someone in his organization.
Whole pattern points that way. Haven't been able to run him down, though.
Takes a lot of legwork.
Uh-huh. Connors has been a big help. Cooperating right down the line. You known him long, Dollar?
Oh, 4 or 5 years, off and on. He's a good man.
Yeah. He doesn't seem to be letting his personal troubles interfere with his work any.
What personal troubles are those?
Oh, he's been pretty broke for the past 6 months or so. Wife's been sick. Run up a lot of doctor and hospital bills. Had to buy a new home recently.
Oh, why's that?
Last one burned down. Lost his 8-month-old son in that fire. Been pretty rough going for him.
Yeah.
Well, when we get this firebug pinned down, might help him some. Take some of the pressure off, relieve his mind, maybe. Here you are, Dollar.
Oh, thanks, Lieutenant.
Check with me in the morning, Dollar. And think over what I've been saying. Maybe something will come to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll think about it. I had Borchard drop me off at your office building. I figured I'd pick up my bag and talk things over with Jeff before checking into a hotel. I let myself in with a key Jeff had given me and headed for his inner office. Wow. Good morning.
Oh. Who are you?
Johnny Dollar. Mean anything to you?
Johnny Dollar? Oh, and you're that insurance investigator Mr. Connors said was coming out from the east.
That's right.
Well, I'm plenty happy to hear that. You gave me a pretty bad start, Mr. Dollar.
I'm sorry.
I'm Sally Martin, Mr. Connors' secretary.
And the rest of it?
Well, you mean what I'm doing up here?
Well, I'm as curious as the next guy.
Well, I promised to have some material ready for Mr. Connors in the morning. I left the office tonight in such a hurry I forgot it, and, well, I just dropped by to get it ready for him.
Well, you're a pretty conscientious employee, Miss Martin. Getting out of bed at 2 in the morning to come down to the office for something like that.
Oh, no. It wasn't that way at all.
Well, what way was it?
Well, I had a date this evening. Dinner, theater, and the Club Romulo just down the street. Stopped up here on my way home.
Mm-hmm. Is this the material Mr. Connors wanted ready in the morning?
Yes, it is.
Comprehensive fire policy on the property at 725 East Westchester.
That's right.
That's pretty coincidental, isn't it?
What?
Or maybe you didn't know that there was a fire out there tonight.
A fire at the... Oh, no.
Any idea why Mr. Connors wanted this particular policy out?
I think if you have any more questions to ask, Mr. Dollar, Mr. Connors should be here to answer them personally.
That sounds reasonable. And maybe we should ring in Lieutenant Borchard, too.
Lieutenant
Hey, Sally, what's keeping you so long? Oh, hi. Didn't know anyone else was up here with you.
Well, this is Johnny Dollar, one of our investigators, Bill. Mr. Dollar, this is Bill Trandler.
Well, glad to know you, Mr. Dollar.
I was telling Mr. Dollar about the wonderful time we had tonight. Dinner, then the theater, and being at the Club Romulo until just a few minutes ago.
Huh? Oh, yeah, that's right. We did have a swell time. But, honey, it's getting late. So if you're ready, let's run along.
Okay, Bill. Good night, Mr. Dollar.
Glad to meet you, Dollar. Hope to see you again sometime.
Being a firm believer in the ability of my subconscious to resolve any knotty problems, I checked into the Baker Hotel for the night. The bed was very comfortable, but my subconscious didn't come up with a thing. Expense account item 2, $3.75. Texas-style breakfast, including steak and pan-fried potatoes. That supplied me with enough energy to walk over to City Hall and look in on Lieutenant Borchard.
There was a little hit-and-run accident at the corner of Westchester and Gates about 9 o'clock last night, Dollar. It's just half a block away from where the fire was. Seems a 53 Ford stand parked down the street there suddenly took off without lights. Spun around the corner and tore the fender off another car coming up the street.
You think there's some tie-in between that and the fire?
Well, one of the boys in traffic thought so, after a witness gave him the license number of the Ford. He checked it through motor vehicle.
Who's it registered to?
Jeff Connors.
Friends, no matter what kind of work you do, there are bound to be times when the job seems monotonous. You feel tense and restless, and you need something to give you a boost. Well, you'll be surprised how helpful a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum can be at times like that. You see, chewing on a smooth piece of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum is a natural way to ease tension and relieve that feeling of restlessness. The easy chewing gives you satisfaction. You get a nice little lift out of it. And Wrigley's Spearmint Gum tastes good, too. Its flavor is lively, refreshing spearmint, a flavor millions enjoy. Try it and see for yourself. Get a few packages of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum and chew a stick from time to time while you work. Chewing this delicious gum will make your job seem easier and pleasanter. It really will. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
The Traffic Division's report of the hit-and-run accident on Westchester the night before added nothing to what Lieutenant Borchard had already told me. Jeff Connor's Ford had been parked halfway down the block. At approximately 9:05 p.m., it roared away from the curb without lights, turned the corner onto Gates, smashed into the side of another car some 10 feet from the intersection, and kept right on going.
There's got to be some reason for Connors being there just 2 hours before the fire, and for taking off in such an old fire to hurry that way without lights.
Well, let's get Jeff's side of the story before we jump to conclusions, Lieutenant.
I don't believe much in coincidence, Mr. Dollar. Time element checks out, too.
The 2 hours between the accident and the fire?
We know those candle fuses burn an hour and a half to 2 hours. Leaving here at 9 gave him plenty of time to ditch the car and meet you at the airport with a pretty clean alibi. He wasn't driving a Ford when he picked you up, was he?
No, it was a Plymouth Coupe.
Yeah. Well, that's his wife's car.
Well, what have you done about getting him in?
Well, he's not at home and he's not at his office. Nothing else I could do but send out a pickup on him.
Uh-huh. Leave word for me at the Baker Hotel when you get him, will you?
Sure thing, Mr. Dollar. I know how you're feeling about it. I'm sure sorry.
Expense account item 3, $2.25. Cab fare out to the modern subdivision where Jeff Connors had his new home. Mrs. Connors turned out to be a sweet, nice-looking young woman whose recent illness was still apparent.
I'm sorry you had the long ride out here for nothing, Mr. Dollar. Jeff's not home. He left early to get his car fixed or something. It's too bad you didn't call first.
Oh, that's all right, Mrs. Connors. It's you I wanted to see.
Oh, yes. Well, I guess I knew that. It's about Jeff, isn't it? And those fires.
That's right.
And you've noticed it, too. Terrible things worry and sorrow can do to a man. Well, until 6 months ago, Jeff was the happiest man I'd ever known. And then, well, our world just fell apart.
That's when your home burned, Mrs. Connors?
When we lost our son. Something happened to Jeff then. Oh, it happened to me, too. I broke down. Had to be hospitalized. But with Jeff, well, it was different.
How do you mean?
He bottled everything up inside of him, refused to let it come out, never even talked about it. A person can't do that, Mr. Dollar.
You mentioned the recent fires, Mrs. Connors. Any particular reason why?
Yes. That's what has me worried so. Ever since they started, he's become terribly depressed. I'm afraid he's going to break down under the strain.
That's the only reason you mentioned it?
Yes. I've tried to do everything in my power to help him. I thought perhaps if we moved away from Dallas, it might help. But he wouldn't do that. Then I tried to get him interested in sports. That brought the first encouraging sign I've had in 6 months.
Oh, what was it, Mrs. Connors?
Well, usually on Monday and Tuesday nights, Jeff brings work home with him. All the mail that's accumulated over the weekend, the new premiums and renewals and so on.
Uh-huh.
Well, for the past 5 weeks, Mr. Dollar, believe it or not, Jeff has gone bowling every Tuesday night. He's become so enthused about it, why, he hasn't come home before midnight on any Tuesday evening since. Now, don't you think that's encouraging, Mr. Dollar?
Expense account item 4, $15.75. Cab fare in and around the city of Dallas. I spent the rest of the day checking the neighborhoods where the fires had occurred, talking to policyholders, neighbors, anyone who might give me a new or different slant. I came up with nothing. Around 5 o'clock, I called in to Lieutenant Borchard.
Still the same answer, Mr. Dollar. Haven't been able to pick up Connors yet. We checked out Sally Martin and Bill Trendler, though.
Anything there?
Nope. It was dinner, theater, and the Club Romulo, just like they said.
Yeah, I see.
For a while there, it looked like something might have tied in. Trendler used to work for Connors, you know.
Trendler was with Eastern Indemnity?
Until about 2 months ago, yeah. Left then and started a business of his own, a bowling alley.
Expense account item 5, $1.60. Cab fare to Trendler's Bowling Emporium on East Gatto Street. 5 alleys and a drink and sandwich bar. Trendler was keeping score for a couple of high school Bobby Soxers over on alley number 3.
Don't let it get you down, honey. It happens to the best of us. Pick off one of them anyway.
Can I talk to you for a minute, Mr. Trendler?
What? Oh, it's you. The insurance man, Johnny Dollar, isn't it?
That's right.
What's on your mind, Dollar?
I'd like to talk to you for a minute.
About the fires?
Yeah.
Take over for the girls, Jim. We'll be right back. Let's go in the office, Dollar. Let's have it, Dollar.
You used to work for Jeff Connors at Eastern.
Yeah, sure. Up until 2 months ago.
Why did you quit?
I just wasn't cut out to be a good insurance salesman.
So you opened this bowling alley.
Anything wrong with that?
Well, they tell me it takes money to open these things.
I had a few bucks saved.
From not being a good insurance salesman?
Why the interest in my finances, Dollar?
Oh, I'm just curious.
So be curious about something else, huh?
Okay. Did Jeff Connors ever come bowling here?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Jeff's wife says he's been bowling every Tuesday night.
I wouldn't know. Last time I saw him was 4 weeks ago last night.
Any idea where he might have been those other Tuesday nights?
Why not ask Sally Martin?
What's she got to do with it?
She's his secretary. She was with him the times he came here. Maybe they figured out something better to do with their Tuesday nights.
She was out with you last night.
Yep. Every minute from 6 o'clock till 2:15. Dinner, theater, Club Romulo.
Well, you can always walk out of the theater before the final curtain. And a $10 bill can make a nightclub waiter pretty confused about time.
Be kind of hard to prove anything like that, wouldn't it, Dollar?
Well, there's no law against trying. Expense account item 6, $1.80. Cab fare back to your offices. They were closed for the night. At the Baker Hotel, I put a call into Sally Martin's apartment and got no answer. While I was trying to figure out the next move, Lieutenant Borchardt called and made up my mind for me.
Be out front in 2 minutes, Dollar. I'll pick you up.
Where are we going, Lieutenant?
Out near the viaduct over the Trinity River.
What's out there? Another fire?
Nope. Jeff Connor's Ford in 12 feet of water.
Took about an hour for a mobile crane to get there, and another 35 minutes before the grappling hooks got a solid hold and swung the car up onto dry land.
Easy now. Bring it over.
Borchardt and I were beside the car almost before the crane put it down.
Well, that's a big help.
Disappointed, Lieutenant?
Would have helped if he'd been in the car. Costs money to drag a river like this.
I don't think you'll find him down there.
We gotta look.
On his way back to City Hall, Borchardt dropped me off at the hotel. On a hunch, I went across the street and had a little talk with the night elevator man in your office building.
Well, now, let's see. Seems to me somebody went up to Eastern Indemnity since closing time. Yep, here it is. Checked in at 8:17, out again at 8:23. Sally Martin it was.
Anyone with her?
Come to think of it, there was. A fellow waiting outside in the car. Say, now, I'm just wondering. Could it be it was Mr. Connors himself?
Expense account item 7, $6.90 for a fast cab ride out to Sally Martin's apartment. The extra $5 was for the speed.
Yes, what? Mr. Dollar.
Where is he, Sally?
Where's who?
Jeff Connors. Is he still here?
Then you know?
That he was hiding here today? Let's say I guessed. All right, where is he?
I don't know.
Now, look. There have been 5 fires and 3 people are dead.
You're hurting my arm, Mr. Dollar.
I want to know what you were doing up at the office and where Jeff went when he left here.
We went up there to get a list of the new policies that came in today.
Why? What did Jeff want with them?
I don't know.
Well, there was some reason. What was it?
I tell you, I don't know. I got back here tonight and told him Mrs. Connors had called about the new policies. He made me drive right down.
His wife called the office?
Well, Mrs. Connors always did that. Double-checked the policies with me because of the files he kept at home.
What was different about her call this time?
Well, nothing. Except the day, maybe. She always called on Tuesdays. There wasn't any real reason for her to call today. Only one new policy had come in.
A fire policy?
Yes, on an apartment building out on the west side.
Where is it?
Look, Mr. Dollar, I know what you're thinking. But Jeff didn't have anything to do with those fires. Believe me.
Where's the policy, Sally?
Over there, on the table.
Expense account item 8, $7.50. Cab fare with speed to the newly insured apartment building on the west side. I called Lieutenant Borchardt from Sally's, and he was there waiting for me. You spotted him yet, Lieutenant?
Yeah. Parking Miss Martin's car back there in the alleyway.
When are you going to take him?
We're just waiting for you.
Okay, let's go.
There it is, Dollar.
Yeah.
Keep your hands on the wheel, Connors.
Don't worry, Lieutenant. I won't try anything.
You expecting us, Jeff?
No. Matter of fact, I was hoping you wouldn't show, Johnny. I wanted to handle this myself.
You've been handling it that way too long, Connors.
Yeah, I guess I have. I wasn't really sure till I saw the car last night. Read about the hit run in the morning papers.
Is that why you dumped it in the river?
Didn't make much sense, I guess. trying to cover up that way, just getting kind of desperate.
Where is she, Jeff?
What?
Your wife. Where is she? In the basement?
Yes. She must be through by now. I was waiting for her to come out, trying to delay it until the last minute, I guess.
I'll have to get her, Connors.
You'll treat her gently, won't you, Lieutenant?
Don't worry. I'll treat her gently.
Sally Martin's not mixed up in this, Johnny boy. She was just trying to help her boss out of a jam. Didn't even know what it was.
Don't worry about it, Jeff.
Doesn't make much sense, does it, Johnny? My own wife. Firebug. I suppose maybe it was our home burning. Boy, I don't know. This doesn't make much sense. She was a lovely girl, Johnny. I wish you'd known her. She was such a lovely girl.
Expense account item 9, $37.40. Hotel bill and miscellaneous. Expense account item 10, $119.10. Airfare back to Hartford. Expense account total, $309.25. Remarks? I've seen fires burn everything from blocks of tenements to a hole in a rug. But this is the first time I ever saw one actually burn the heart out of a man. I don't ever want to see it again. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Friends, next time you chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum, notice how cool and fresh it makes your mouth feel. That's because Wrigley's Spearmint Gum has lots of lively, refreshing, real spearmint flavor in every stick. The minute you sink your teeth in, that cooling flavor begins to freshen your taste and relieve that hot, dry feeling in your throat. It sweetens the breath, too. Millions of people carry Wrigley's Spearmint Gum with them wherever they go for quick, long-lasting refreshment and for real chewing enjoyment. Next time you're at the store, get some Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Enjoy its refreshing flavor and good, pleasant chewing often, every day. Remember, that's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Sidney Marshall with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Hal March, Barney Phillips, Gene Bates, Sam Edwards, Virginia Gregg, and Jim Nusser. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is the CBS Radio Network.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, present for your listening enjoyment John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Ben Gordon, Johnny. Got a strange one for you.
Well, who's the deceased and where did it happen?
Well, his name's Luis Alvarado, a $50,000 life policy. He's a bachelor. His brother Jose is the beneficiary. And the two of them own a racetrack in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Well, outside of the fact that not too many people own racetracks, what's so strange about it?
Well, an exercise boy found him under the tote board in the infield at 6 this morning. He had a .38 caliber bullet hole in his chest and a winning ticket on a long shot in his hand. Well, Johnny?
Well, I guess there's nothing stranger than a winning ticket on a long shot at that.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John London and another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Friends, the makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum present these weekly adventures of Johnny Dollar because they know that millions of you enjoy Johnny Dollar. That's true of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, too. It's enjoyed by millions, day in and day out. People find that the chewing on a smooth, delicious piece of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum somehow makes time pass more pleasantly. Whether you're working, driving, shopping, or just taking things easy, that good, tasty chewing gives you enjoyment and satisfaction. So always keep a package of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. And whenever you want a refreshing, delicious treat, chew it safe. You'll like it. You really will.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Washingtonian Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Temperamental Tote Board Matter. Expense account item 1, $147.35. Airfare between Hartford and San Juan, Puerto Rico. I checked in at the Caribe Hilton and then made my way to police headquarters where I introduced myself to Piano Cardenas, captain of police.
It is perhaps unfortunate you did not check with us by telephone before coming down, Senor Dollar. You might have saved yourself the trip.
Oh, why is that, Captain?
It is our belief that the insurance of Senor Luis Alvarado has no bearing whatsoever upon his murder.
Well, what does have a...
Perhaps you have heard of Anthony Randolph.
Randolph? That's the same Tony Randolph who's connected with the Miami gambling syndicate?
It is. It is here now in San Juan. And for several weeks it has been attempting to persuade the Alvarado brothers to sell him an interest in the track.
How's he making that out?
2 days ago, Senor Luis Alvarado almost physically threw him out of his office.
And now Luis is dead?
Yes.
Well, have you got anything besides a possible motive?
Senor Alvarado was last seen by his employees working in his office when the track closed at the 6 o'clock last night. The death was caused by a .38 caliber bullet, and the time of the death was approximately 4 o'clock this morning.
Where was Tony Randolph at that time?
According to himself and 3 of his personal friends, he was asleep in his room at the Condado Beach Hotel. That's a questionable alibi.
Yeah. I understand that Alvarado's body was found under the tote board in the infield. Is that where he was killed?
We have no conclusive evidence either way.
And what about that winning ticket on a long shot he had in his hand?
It was a $10 ticket on Bella Maria, the winner of the 4th race yesterday. The price was $72 to win.
Ah, not bad. Any idea what he was doing with the ticket?
No, but it would hardly seem to have any bearing on the murder.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it is possible our suspicions are wrong concerning this Anthony Randolph. However, I still do not believe you will find the insurance to be the most.
You seem pretty sure of that, Captain. Why?
Luis and Jose Alvarado were always very close, not only as partners in the restaurant and other business ventures, but personally as well. After all,
They were brothers.
Yeah? So were Cain and Abel. Expense account item 2, $2.10. Cab fare out to the Descanso racetrack. I got there between the 5th and 6th races, made my way to the west wing of the clubhouse, where the Alvarado brothers had their private office. Oh, hello. Is Senor Alvarado in?
Oh, I regret, Senor, but he is not. I am Maria Roldan, his confidential secretary. Would there be anything I could do for you?
When will he be back, Miss Roldan?
Not for several hours, Senor Gomez.
Sounds like you were expecting me.
But of course. Once they had word you were arriving. Oh, how terribly unfortunate. His absence makes it necessary for me to work here this afternoon.
Oh, why is that?
And part of my duties consist of acting as hostess when we have a special day. They seem to think I make a rather pleasant impression upon them.
Yeah, I can see why. Too bad we'll have to postpone it.
But that's not any longer than 8 o'clock this evening at Avenida Piedra, number 49.
That's an easy number to remember. Expense account item 3, $1.85, cab fare to the Condado Beach Hotel. I found Tony Randolph on a private patio overlooking the beach. He came completely equipped with swim trunks, dark glasses, and 3 close-mouthed bodyguards hovering obtrusively in the background.
Sure, I'll be glad to tell you what I can, Mr. Dollar, but don't figure why you came to see me.
Well, you were trying to buy an interest in the Descanso racetrack from the Alvarados.
Yeah, that's right. I came down here on a little vacation, saw the plant. It looked pretty good, so I figured I might invest a few bucks in it.
How you making out?
Well, you know how these things are. It takes a little time. The boys have been playing hard to get, trying to raise the price. But we're getting on okay.
A little fuss with Luis Alvarado at the office the other day.
What fuss? We were just clowning around, that's all. Just clowning around.
Uh-huh. I don't suppose you'd have any idea who killed him.
Me? How could I know anything like that? I just met the guy when I came down here. All I know is he seemed a nice guy, had a nice plant here, and I wanted to go in with him. How would I have any idea who'd want to kill him?
Just thought I'd ask.
Well, that's okay, Mr. Dollar. You got a $50,000 insurance investment. Before you pay off, you want to make sure everything's on the up and up. Don't blame you one bit. And tell you what I'll do for you.
Yeah? What's that?
I got a few connections. Some friends owe me a couple of favors, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, sometimes they get to talking about things like that. Shooting the breeze, nothing better to do. If I hear anything, I'll let you know.
All right. That'll be just great. Expense account item 4, $1.85, cab fare back to the Descanso racetrack. After that rather fruitless interview with Tony Randolph, I was hoping that Jose Alvarado would be back and I might have better luck with him. But as I approached Alvarado's office, Captain Cardenas came hurrying out.
Oh, Senor Dollar, you are just in time.
Yeah, for what?
My office just called. There has been a shooting at the home of Jose Alvarado. The report was phoned in to my office by his son, Tomas.
What did he have to say?
He was rather agitated and did not talk long enough to give details. He merely reported that there had been a shooting and requested that an ambulance be sent to the house immediately.
Tomas Alvarado was waiting at the house to greet us. And so was a corpse stretched out on the living room floor. A .38 caliber revolver laying beside an outstretched hand. Tomas did the honors.
His name is Julio Mendoza, a former employee of ours at the track. Why he should have done such an insane thing, I do not know.
Well, just what did he do, Mr. Alvarado?
I do not know what started it. I was in the library going over the list of pallbearers for my uncle's funeral. Then I heard the angry voices arguing in here.
Your father's voice and Mendoza's?
See, there was a sound like a blow, and I heard my father cry out. I took a gun from the desk and came in here.
That 45 Colt automatic on the table over there?
See. As I came running in, Mendoza fired a shot at me, and I fired one in return, and he fell. Then I ran over to my father.
He was alive, Senor Alvarado.
He was unconscious. He has a bad heart. Whether it was a blow or the excitement of the argument, I do not know. I put in the call for an ambulance, and I took my father to the hospital, and then you arrived.
You said Mendoza was a former employee.
That is correct. He was a thermomutual machine operator. He was discharged yesterday by my Uncle Luis for stealing. Obviously, there is some connection between that, the scene with my father, and possibly my uncle's death.
Fortunately, there is no need to speculate. When your father regains consciousness, he can tell us.
Might not hurt to speculate about one thing, Captain.
What is that, Senor Dollar?
That bit of pasteboard under Mendoza's arm. Looks like a pari-mutuel ticket to me.
It is, senor. A $10 win ticket in the fourth race yesterday. Number 214, Bella Maria.
When the homicide men arrived, Tomas Alvarado dictated a statement to them and then left for the hospital. Captain Cardenas went to headquarters. I went back to the Hilton. Expense account item 5, $6.75. Drinks and sandwiches on the hotel veranda while waiting for 8 o'clock and my rendezvous with Maria Roldan. My peaceful contemplation of the view was interrupted by 2 phone calls. The first was from Captain Cardenas.
We have just received a report from ballistics, Senor Dollard. Julio Mendoza's gun is the same one which killed Senor Luis Alvarado. Obviously, our case is closed.
The second call was from Tony Randolph. That took a little longer.
Say, Dollar, I hear you got a guy named Mendoza pigeonholed for the Alvarado murder.
Where did you hear that, Randolph?
I told you I had connections.
Yeah, so you did.
Well, the word around town is you got the wrong cookie.
Very interesting. What else does the word have to say?
Nothing much. Only that somebody has figured out a way of beating the races. Maybe if you find out who it is and how it's done, you'll have your man.
You have any suggestions?
Yeah, one. Ask her the Alvarado.
Friends, no matter what kind of work you do, there are bound to be times when the job seems monotonous. You feel tense and restless, and you need something to give you a boost. Well, you'll be surprised how helpful a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint chewing gum can be at times like that. You see, chewing on a smooth piece of Wrigley's Spearmint gum is a natural way to ease tension and relieve that feeling of restlessness. The easy chewing gives you satisfaction. You get a nice little lift out of it. And Wrigley's Spearmint gum tastes good, too. Its flavor is lively, refreshing spearmint, a flavor millions enjoy. Try it and see for yourself. Get a few packages of Wrigley's Spearmint chewing gum and chew a stick from time to time while you work. Chewing this delicious gum will make your job seem easier and pleasanter. It really will. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account item 6, $1.75. Cab fare to Avenida Piedras number 49, a swank, ultra-modern apartment building in the newer Santurce section. It smelled money, and so did the lush evening gown Maria was wearing as she greeted me.
How nice of you to be so prompt, Johnny. You're even a bit early.
Well, I was hoping you wouldn't mind.
Oh, how could I mind? As you see, I'm already dressed. And when a woman is dressed and ready when her escort arrives, it usually indicates it's rather important to her.
Yeah. What I'm trying to figure out is why.
You should know already, Thomas. You're always looking for reasons or motivation. Is it not enough that a woman finds you attractive and wishes to spend some time in your company?
Well, I suppose it could be.
But it is not?
In this case, no.
I was afraid this evening would not turn out as pleasantly as I'd hoped.
I'm sorry.
There's no need to be. After all, you're down here on business. I can understand. I will answer your questions as best I can.
Thanks. Well, suppose we start with Luis Alvarado's murder and those Bella Maria wind tickets.
Johnny, are you familiar with the operation of a pari-mutuel track?
As familiar as I want to be.
Well, then you know it operates like a complicated adding machine. As each ticket is punched out and sold, the totals appear on the illuminated board in the infield. At the end of each race, the amount of money that has been bet is paid out on the winning horses. It is a foolproof system, entirely automatic. Neither more nor less money than has been bet can be paid out.
Well, you've spelled it out pretty clearly. Now, why?
Johnny, $21,000 was bet on the fourth race yesterday. As of 6 o'clock this afternoon, more than $26,000 have been paid out on winning tickets.
Over 5,000 more than had been bet.
See.
You sure about that?
I saw the head bookkeeper's figures on it at closing time.
Was the overage all paid out on $10 win tickets on Bella Maria?
See, it was.
Has this ever happened before?
Well, I do not know. Only Jose and Luis said I see the figures. It is only because I was there alone today that I happened to see them.
Uh-huh. What does Tomas Alvarado do at the track?
Well, he has charge of regard and protection, sir.
And Julio Mendoza?
He operated a pari-mutuel machine.
At a $10 window?
See?
Very interesting.
So interesting that it will interfere with our plans for speeding?
There'll be other nights, Maria. Expense account item 7, $2.40. Cab fare to police headquarters. Captain Cardenas didn't seem to be too impressed with my latest information.
No, Senor Dollar, I do not believe it is possible. I can think of no way in which the pari-mutuel system can be fixed.
Well, the extra 5,000 paid out on Bella Maria must mean something.
We have only the word of Senorita Roldan that such a sum was paid out.
Well, the bookkeeper could verify it.
I will check on it, of course, Senor Dollar. But this much I can tell you now. It is mechanically impossible to fix the tote board or to punch out any tickets after the race begins.
What about forgery?
Well, that, too, would be virtually impossible. Each ticket has a special picture code printed upon it, and the codes are changed with every race.
Well, that sounds pretty foolproof, doesn't it?
Believe me, it is, Senor Dollar. And even if it were not, what possible connection could all this have with the murder of Luis Alvarado?
I wish you hadn't asked that, Captain. It's been bothering me, too. I borrowed a headquarters car from Cardenas to take the burden off the cab fare items on this expense account and drove out to the Condado Beach Hotel. Tony Randolph was in the gambling casino. His mood wasn't quite as expansive as it had been earlier that day.
Okay, Dollar, what's on your mind now? And make it snappy, will you? I've got things to do.
You sound like the dice have been biting the hand that rolls them.
So they're cold. Come on, let's get on with it.
Sure. Just tell me who you're gunning for, and you can go back to the tables.
You better clean up that crack, Dollar, and give it to me straight.
You're no philanthropist, Randolph. You didn't pass along the word this afternoon out of the kindness of your heart.
What's it to you why I passed it? If it's straight, it'd get you off the hook on it.
Even if it's not, it could get you off one, too.
That's supposed to mean something?
Yeah. If Jose Alvarado is sent up for the murder of his brother, you might have an easier job getting hold of that racetrack stuff.
And you'd save that $50,000 in insurance. So where's your beef, Dollar?
No beef, if it works out that way.
Why don't you make sure it does?
Well, maybe I need a little professional advice.
Let's take a walk outside.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Dollar. What's that?
Well, it could be like this. Somebody figures a way to beat the mutuals. Luis Alvarado tumbles to it, so he's kept quiet with a .38 caliber slug.
That could make sense.
Only they tell me the mutuals can't be beat.
They could be wrong.
How wrong?
There's no law against cashing winning tickets a day or two after the race.
Well, you have to get the tickets first.
Or print them yourself.
What's it take to do that?
You have to get into the track when it's closed. Get hold of the codes and a roll of ticket paper. And know how to operate one of the machines without flashing a tote board.
Takes a lot of doing.
Not if your head man is to practice, though.
Yeah.
Anything else on your mind, Doc?
No, I don't think so.
I do not know, Senor Dollar. It is still a theory without proof.
Well, the bookkeeper should be able to supply us with some.
No, I'm afraid not.
Oh? Why?
He was called away from the track after the 7th race. Some family business. He died in a traffic accident on the way.
You're sure it was an accident?
Oh, there is no question.
Uh-huh.
An unfortunate occurrence for us.
Yeah, even tougher for him.
Yes. Of course, we can always check the records at the track, and in that way... Your pardon.
Sure, go ahead.
Capitan Cardenas.
See?
Gracias. I think perhaps you will find this of interest, Senor Dollar.
What is it?
The gun found beside Mendoza's body. It is registered to Senor Jose Alvarado.
Before leaving the office with Captain Cardenas, I found time for one short telephone call.
Hello?
I think I'll be able to drop around in about an hour, Maria.
I will be waiting,
The hospital told us that Jose Alvarado's condition was still too critical to allow questioning. So the captain and I went out to the Descanso racetrack instead. The full moon was taking a siesta behind a bank of clouds, and the dim, shadowy bulk of the grandstand looked deserted. The watchman at the gate assured us that no one had entered the track since closing time.
I think perhaps we are being rather foolish, Senor Dollar. There is nothing to be learned out here at this hour of the night.
What about the bookkeeper's report?
It could wait until the morning.
Maybe it wouldn't be there by then.
That is a possibility, of course. However, the hospital assures me that Senor Alvarado could not be released for some time.
Well, it won't do any harm to look.
Wait, Senor. In there, behind that ticket case, the light.
Yeah.
What would anyone be doing in there?
Operating one of the pari-mutuel machines. By hand.
There is an entrance to the cages at this side. Over here. Can you see who it is?
No.
What is it? The police! Stand still!
All right.
So, it was Tomas Alvarado.
Call for an ambulance. I'm hurt. An ambulance. I don't want to die out here.
I don't think your Uncle Luis wanted to either. On the way to the hospital, Tomas Alvarado gave us a confession to the murders of Luis Alvarado and Julio Mendoza. Both were motivated by their separate discoveries of Tomas's little plan for getting rich off his father's racetrack. When the surgeon finally convinced him he wasn't going to die, he decided to retract and left a few details unanswered. But he had told us enough to satisfy Captain Cardenas.
So it was as I told you in the beginning, Senor Dollar. The insurance had nothing to do with this matter.
Yeah, but you've got to admit Jose Alvarado was involved.
Apparently only to the extent of a blackmail attempt by Julio Mendoza. However, that need be no concern of yours. The unfinished business we will take care of in due time.
Say, that reminds me. I've got a little unfinished business of my own. Maria was waiting for me as agreed. Even more lush and lovely than she had earlier. She recommended a nightclub. And on our way downtown, I gave her a short resume of what had happened.
So it was Thomas who was responsible. Oh, what a pity, Johnny.
Why is that?
He could have had everything he wanted if he'd only been willing to wait for it.
His father's money, you mean?
See? It would have come to him in time. But to do this, deliberately rob and murder because he wanted the money now. Oh, why do people do such things, Johnny?
Well, who knows? Maybe somebody talks them into it. Maybe it's for some woman. Maybe both together.
I suppose that is true. Oh, well, then why should we concern ourselves about it now? This is our night, Johnny. There will be nothing more to spoil it.
Yeah, I think that was probably it.
What?
The combination. Some woman talking him into it. He had to be working with somebody. He couldn't have cashed all those extra tickets himself. It'd be a dead giveaway. So somebody else helped him to spread them around.
Oh, Johnny, you're talking about business again.
What did you do with the tickets, Maria? Sell them at a discount to some fence?
I'm not being very funny, Johnny. If this is your idea of a pleasant
It's no
evening...
good, Maria. You tipped it when you said you saw the bookkeeper's figures at the end of the racing day. Too bad you didn't know he'd left the track at the end of the 7th race. It was a good try at keeping your own skirts clean, but didn't work out.
Johnny, this is police headquarters.
Yeah. Let's go in, shall we? Expense account item 8, $38.15. Hotel bill and miscellaneous. Expense account item 9, $152.10. Airfare back to Hartford. Expense account total, $354.95. Remarks? Jose Alvarado was still too ill the next day to have any visitors, so I left Puerto Rico without seeing him. Perhaps it's just as well. How can you give a man $50,000 with one hand and take away his son with the other? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Ed Gross, Johnny. Busy?
No, I just finished the case. How can I help you?
I'd like you to fly to California, Palma, California. Investigate the death of a woman who was reported to have perished in a fire. Sara Dearing.
Sara Dearing. That name has a familiar ring.
The silent movie star.
Oh, yeah. Well, she retired in the 20s, didn't she?
At the peak of her career. Our company carries a $100,000 policy on her life, and there's a rumor in Palma that Sara Dearing's death was not due to the fire.
Oh, yeah?
We got the tip from a news item in the local paper, the Palma News.
Who benefits by her death?
Her estate. We have no way of learning who she appointed as executor of her estate or who the beneficiaries might be, but a claim for the $100,000 will undoubtedly reach us before long.
Meanwhile, I'm to investigate this rumor?
Yeah. I'll send you our file on Sara Dearing and the newspaper item that gave us the tip.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? During his 50 years of public service, he held almost every office the public could give him. He was born in Virginia in 1758. And at the age of 18, when he left college to enter the Army, his cabinet boasted the names of such distinguished Americans as John Quincy Adams and John C. Calhoun. When he was reelected in 1820, he carried every state in the Union and won every electoral vote except one, which was cast for John Quincy Adams. If you don't have his name by now, here are two more clues. During his presidency, the first public high school was started, and the first steamship crossed the Atlantic. Who was he? James Monroe, 5th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office Federal Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Sara Dearing Matter. Expense account item 1. $153 plane fare and incidentals from Hartford to International Airport, Inglewood, California. I rented a convertible and drove to Palma, a little village perched high in the Santa Rosa Mountains, overlooking 1,000 square miles of Mojave Desert. I registered at the town's only hotel, then dropped around the offices of the Palma News.
Oh, hello. Can I help you?
I'm looking for the editor, Lacey. M. Lacey.
I'm Lacey, Maggie Lacey.
The editor?
The editor.
You're kidding.
I wish you salesmen would think of a new approach. I'm just a little weary excusing the fact that I'm not a grizzled old character who drinks ink in his coffee.
Miss Lacey.
And I've got all the printing supplies I need. I'm sorry. Perhaps the next time you pass through.
I'm here to talk about a news item, Miss Lacey.
Which item?
This one.
Well, what about it?
Well, it says that there are some rather peculiar circumstances, quote, surrounding the recent death of Palma's most famous citizen, Miss Sara Dearing. These circumstances were discovered by the Palma News and brought to the attention of Dan Cox, County Sheriff. As of this writing, Sheriff Cox has chosen to ignore the evidence submitted by the news. Why? Unquote. You write that?
Yes.
And you submitted the evidence to Sheriff Cox?
Yes, I did.
What sort of evidence, Miss Lacey?
Now, I'm not sure that's any of your business, Mr.
Dollar. Johnny Dollar. My credentials.
Oh, an insurance investigator.
For Federal Life.
They insured Sara Dearing?
For $100,000.
Who's the beneficiary, Mr. Dollar?
Her estate. The executor hasn't contacted my company as yet. In fact, we don't know who he is or where to reach him.
100,000, you said.
Just waiting to be claimed.
And that would explain why she was killed.
What did you say?
Sara Dearing was murdered, Mr. Dollar. I'm almost positive of it.
You better explain, Miss Lacey.
Well, as you know, Sara Dearing was burned to death in her bed. At least that's what the county coroner certified. Accidental death due to fire of unknown origin.
But you disagree.
And I'll show you why. I found this in the ruins of her bedroom.
A medicine bottle.
The label was burnt off.
What's this stuff caked in the bottom?
Well, Pete, the local pharmacist, analyzed it for me. It's what's left of a very powerful sedative.
Is this the evidence you submitted to the sheriff?
And he said it wasn't anything to be concerned about. Now, listen, Mr. Dollar. The stuff in this bottle can only be purchased by prescription, and it wasn't purchased here in Palma.
So?
So I think those two men brought it. I think they drugged Sara Dearing and then rigged up some kind of contraption that would start a fire in her bedroom after they got out of town.
Hey, hold on. You left me with two men. What two men?
The ones who come to see Sara Dearing every year on the same day.
Who are they?
Nobody seems to know. They usually come together on the noon bus and leave town on the 6:20. I took a photograph of them last year. Plan to do a story on them someday, you know, from the angle of mysterious admirers make yearly pilgrimage to see ex-movie queen. Here it is.
And these men appeared on the day of her death?
They left on the 6:20, and the fire was discovered at 8.
Any idea where they come from?
Hollywood. I checked with the bus drivers.
You've done a very thorough job, Miss Lacey.
Sara Dearing has been my idol ever since I was old enough to dream. I read everything ever written about her. She was a wonderful woman.
Yeah, so I've heard. I understand she was a recluse.
What woman wouldn't be after the heartbreak she's had? You know, she died broke, Mr. Dollar. Except for the insurance policy.
Did she owe anyone?
No. No, there was just enough left in her bank account to pay her few debts and Hilda's wages.
Who's Hilda?
Hilda Brower, her personal maid. Been with her ever since she started in pictures.
Well, thanks for your help, Miss Lacey. I'll keep in touch. I found County Sheriff Dan Cox seated behind a well-ordered desk in his well-ordered office. He listened carefully while I explained the purpose of my call, and when I finished, he wagged his massive shock of silver-white hair.
Oh, Mr. Dollar, I'm afraid your company has been misled by an overzealous newspaper woman. Sara Dearing's death was accidental.
What about the sedatives found in her room, Sheriff? Maggie Lacey claims they were prescription drugs not purchased here in Palma.
Then Miss Dearing must have purchased them elsewhere.
A recluse who hadn't been off her estate for 20 years?
Hilda Brower, her maid, went lots of places for Miss Dearing.
Uh-huh. How about the two men who called on her the day of her death?
Old friends, Mr. Dollar. Came to see Miss Dearing every year on her birthday.
You know them, Sheriff?
Yes.
You care to give me their names?
I would care, Mr. Dollar. They were friends of a very fine lady. I know she wouldn't want them to be annoyed because of some foolish rumors about her death.
You seem very certain that it was accidental.
It couldn't have been anything else. Sara Dearing didn't have an enemy in the world.
I get the impression that you knew her rather well.
We were close friends, Mr. Dollar.
I see. Sheriff, did you consider the possibility of suicide?
Impossible. A woman who enjoyed living as much as she did doesn't take her own life.
Yet she shut herself away from the world.
And why not? Her fame had brought her most of what the world had to offer. She preferred solitude.
Was she in good health, Sheriff?
Sara Dearing was always in delicate health, though she'd never admit it, especially to herself.
I see. Was there an autopsy?
The county coroner felt the circumstances didn't warrant an autopsy.
And you agreed?
Naturally, Mr. Dollar. I happen to be sheriff and county coroner.
I drove to the outskirts of town and located Sara Dearing's rambling Spanish villa, where I found Hilda Brower, an enormous, tearful woman.
It was my evening out. Same as every Thursday, Mr. Dollar. I go to early movie. I'm home at 8. I smell smoke. It comes from her bedroom. There's fire. I try to reach her, but the flames.
It's all right. You did what you could, I'm sure.
Excuse me, please. I'm not myself. You understand?
Of course. Hilda, who were the two men who visited Miss Dearing that day?
Two men?
The ones who came every year on her birthday.
I do not know any men.
Now, Hilda, I know you're upset.
I cannot tell you any more. I don't know any more.
You know their names, Hilda. What are they?
I cannot say any more. Please go away now.
Now, look, Hilda.
You best leave, Mr. Dollar.
Oh.
Wow, Sheriff Cox.
Hilda can't tell you any more than I've already told you. Case is closed. Why persist in stirring up ugly rumors?
I've got a job to do, Sheriff.
You've done it. Now, why not leave us in peace?
I'll be going when I'm satisfied.
That's your privilege, sir. Meanwhile, don't trespass on this property again.
Just as you say, Sheriff. Goodbye. Sheriff Cox didn't bother to see me out, so I had a chance to pause in Sara Dearing's living room and study some photographs which had caught my eye earlier. There were 4 of them, all enshrined in gold frames, all of the same handsome young man. The face was weak-mouthed, without character, and vaguely familiar.
Oh, Mr. Dollar. Back so soon? Any luck?
I don't know yet, Miss Lacey. May I see the photograph of those mysterious visitors you showed me before?
Oh, of course. Here you are. You've got a lead, Mr. Dollar.
I think so. You see this man? The tall one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are 4 photos of him in Sara Dearing's living room.
Were they autographed?
No, but they were framed in enough gold to indicate he must have held a very special place in her life. Of course, he's a lot older in this photograph.
How about his pudgy little companion here?
Well, apparently he didn't rate enshrinement. Only the tall one made the Hall of Fame.
I wonder who he is.
Miss Lacey, are you absolutely positive these 2 men visited Sara Dearing the day she died?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thanks. I'll borrow this photo if you don't mind. Be back tomorrow.
Mr. Dollar, Johnny, wait.
Yeah?
Where are you going in such a lather?
To the Hollywood Public Library to find a name for this space.
If you think the person in this photograph was an actor, Mr. Dollar, his picture and name will undoubtedly be cataloged in the Players Directory or prior to 1937, the Standard Casting Directory.
Well, fine.
However, unless you know approximately when he was active, you may be in for a very long search.
Oh?
A new edition of the directory is published 3 times a year. Each contains hundreds of performers.
I see. Well, dust off the 1923 editions. I'll work my way forward. 4 hours and what seemed to be 400,000 faces later, I found my man in a 1928 edition of the Standard Casting Directory. He was Neville Thomas, represented by an agent named Mattie Freeman. A phone call to the Artist Managers Guild disclosed that Freeman had gone out of business 10 years ago. He was now owner of Mattie's Steakhouse, an expensive eatery on La Cienega Boulevard, Hollywood's Restaurant Row. At the bar, I was about to relieve my parched throat when who should approach but the pudgy little man in the photo Maggie Lacey had loaned me.
Oh, I'm Mattie Freeman. Edward said you want to see me.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't catch your name, Mr.
Dollar. Johnny Dollar. Insurance investigator.
What can I do for you?
Well, I was looking for an actor you used to represent, Neville Thomas. But you'll do fine. For now.
I don't understand.
This photo give you a hint?
Neville and me.
Taken in Palma last year.
Where'd you get this?
That's not what I'm here to talk about, Mr. Freeman.
Okay, so you've got a photograph.
And a witness who saw you and Neville Thomas in Palma a few hours before Sara Dearing died.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Dollar, and if you'll excuse...
Just a minute.
What is it?
You mean to say that you've never heard of Sara Dearing?
It was my privilege to be in the business when Sara Dearing was making motion picture history.
Well, feeling the way you do, it seems to me you'd be willing to cooperate.
How?
Explain what you were doing in Palma the day Sara Dearing died.
Why should I explain anything to you?
I just thought maybe you'd like to clear yourself.
What?
Suspicion of Sara Dearing's murder?
I'm having a pipe dream, Dollar. Sara Dearing died on a fire.
Okay. Then let's move on to Neville Thomas. Where can I find him?
I wouldn't know.
All right. Have it your way. I'll find Neville Thomas with or without your help. My company can usually get police cooperation. I'll see you, Mr. Freeman.
1 second, Dollar.
Yeah?
Just what does police cooperation imply?
Oh, a statewide alarm for Neville Thomas. Wanted for questioning in connection with the death of Sara Dearing.
The sheriff at Palmer certified a death was accidental. The matter's closed.
Any matter of murder can always be reopened. It'll be messy, lots of newspaper publicity, but I'm going to find Thomas. See you around.
Wait, Dollar.
Yeah?
Neville Thomas is in my office.
Mind if I break in here for a moment to say a few words? Just the other day, I was having lunch with a group of newspaper reporters. We were talking about the government and what goes into its operation when a thought struck me. It's a funny thing, I said. They call one branch of the government the State Department when it handles all of our foreign affairs. Can any of you fellows explain that? Well, one of the reporters who writes political news piped up and said, actually, the State Department does more than handle foreign affairs. It also publishes all of the laws that have been passed by Congress and issues all the passports and visas for anyone traveling outside the United States. Well, just then the waitress brought us our coffee, and she entered the conversation. Don't forget, she said, if you're ever on a quiz show, you can maybe win a trip to the moon by telling them that the State Department has the job of making sure the Great Seal of the United States doesn't get lost. And it acts sort of like a governmental Emily Post, too. Well, while she was making out our checks, she added this bit of information. Did you ever hear of the Division of Protocol? That's part of the State Department, too. It's the outfit that makes sure foreign diplomats who visit America get introduced the way they should and get seated in the right places at official dinners and things like that. Well, after she gave us all that information, we tipped her and went back to work. And now I think it's time we got back to our program.
And now with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Matty Freeman led me back to his office with all the grudging grace of a kid surrendering a stolen apple. The man he introduced as Neville Thomas was still handsome, but branded with a bitter, down-at-the-mouth expression.
You asked me if I knew Sara Dearing. Why, I was her leading man in 5 pictures, Mr. Dollar. She was a vixen, temperamental, the most exasperating woman in the world.
But she had a great gift, Neville.
A gift for stealing scenes, yes.
When did you last see her, Mr. Thomas?
Yes? All right. Excuse me, I'm wanted outside. I know you'll cooperate with Mr. Dollar, Neville.
Don't worry, Matty. My ex-agent stole me blind when I was on the top of the heap. I drop around here once in a while to admire the house my money built.
Let's get back to Sara Dearing.
If you insist.
When did you see her last?
Not since our last picture.
Oh, that's not true.
No?
You saw her the day she died.
I'm afraid you're mistaken, Mr. Dollar.
You were positively identified.
By whom?
By someone who's seen you in Palma every year on Sara Dearing's birthday.
Fantastic.
Take a look at this photograph. Care to reconsider your answer?
Only to this extent, Mr. Dollar. I'll admit I did visit Sara Dearing occasionally, as seldom as possible, and only after she besieged me with letters and phone calls. You see, Sarah was in love with me. Had been for many years.
Oh. And you?
I'm afraid I didn't share Matty's adoration for her, Mr. Dollar. Pity is the nicest word to express my feeling for Sarah.
I see. What do you know about the real cause of her death?
I read that she died in a fire. Has there been some further development?
You were seen leaving her home less than 2 hours before the fire was discovered.
Impossible. I can prove I was here in Hollywood at the apartment of a friend.
Who?
Matty Freeman.
Well, it didn't take a mental colossus to deduce that Thomas and his ex-agent had rehearsed their alibi before I ever set foot in the steakhouse. The clincher, if I needed one, came as I pulled out of the parking lot. I spotted Matty talking to someone in a parked sedan. The someone obliged by striking a match to his cigar, which revealed that it was Sheriff Dan Cox. Right then, I decided to call it a day. I registered at the plaza, took an aspirin, a hot shower, and a sleeping tablet, in that order. Hello.
Johnny, I phoned every hotel in town. Thank heavens I finally located you.
Well, lucky you, wherever you are.
Maggie Lacey, Johnny. I've got to see you right away.
Oh, for Maggie. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll drive down first thing tomorrow.
I'm not phoning from Palma, Johnny. I'm here in Hollywood. I'll be in the plaza lobby in 5 minutes.
Hello, Maggie. Say, Maggie.
Johnny. Oh, you look awful.
Well, I told you. I took a sleeping tablet. Oh, it's a blockbuster. Oh, my eyelids feel like lead sash weights.
Come here. Let's sit down over here.
Okay. Better, Maggie. Ooh, leg is slappy.
Well, when I missed you at the library, I decided to do a little research on Sara Dearing.
Well, good for you.
Well, they have a wonderful Sara Dearing scrapbook with all her news photos and clippings. I borrowed this.
Hey, do these agonized eyes deceive me, or the people in this photo?
Read the caption, Johnny.
Relaxing with Miss Sara Dearing beside her Hollywood swimming pool are the 4 lucky people to whom the motion picture star will someday leave her multi-million-dollar estate. They are, left to right, Miss Hilda Brower, her personal maid, Mr. Matty Freeman, her agent, Neville Thomas, her current leading man, and Dan Cox, her attorney.
Think of it, Johnny. Sheriff Cox, the man who insists her death was accidental, is one of her heirs.
Well, I'm not the least surprised. Well, I'll see you in the morning, Maggie.
Well, Johnny, wait. Aren't you going to do something?
Yeah. I'm going to point you toward the YWCA, then send a wire to my company. Well, wait quietly for an answer. Johnny Dollar.
Ed Gross, Johnny.
Oh, hello. What time is it?
9 here. 6 where you are.
Oh, no.
Say, I got your wire. What are you doing in Hollywood? Tried phoning you on Palma last night. Where have you been?
I'll explain later, Mr. Gross. Say, how about Sara Dearing's insurance? Anybody claim the $100,000 yet?
Yeah, got a registered letter yesterday. Mailed 2 days ago from the executor of her estate.
Yeah? Who is he?
A Palma man named Cox. Dan Cox.
I checked out of the plaza, expense account item 3, $12, and was halfway to Palma before I realized I'd forgotten to pick up Maggie Lacey. But I quieted my conscience by making a mental promise that she'd get an exclusive story on Hilda Brower's confession. At this point, confronted with all the information I had, I figured Hilda would be the easiest of the 4 heirs to break. I learned how wrong a guy can be when I pulled into the drive of Sara Dearing's villa and discovered I was expected.
Come in, Mr. Dollar.
Well, you do get around, Sheriff.
Yes, you too, sir. Fortunately, your moves are fairly predictable.
So you're here to see that I don't talk to Hilda again, hmm?
Hilda is ill. She can't be disturbed.
Let me read you a caption on an old newspaper photo. Relaxing with Miss Sara Dearing beside her Hollywood swimming pool are the 4 lucky people to whom the motion picture star will someday leave her multi-million-dollar estate. They are, left to right, Hilda Brower, Mattie Freeman...
Oh, you need to go on, Mr. Dollar. I see what you're driving at. You think the 4 of us murdered Miss Dearing for her insurance?
Well, it's the most logical theory to date, Sheriff. Especially since you happen to be the executor of the estate.
Mr. Dollar, Sara Dearing was not murdered. However, I will admit that she did not die as a result of the fire.
Oh?
She was dead when the fire was started.
Started? Who was the firebug?
Hilda. She came home, found Miss Dearing dead, an open bottle of sedatives beside the bed.
Suicide?
That's what Hilda thought. She must have gone out of her head with grief. She told me later that her only thought was to protect Miss Dearing's name from the shame of a suicide's death.
So she set the fire to destroy the evidence?
Yes.
And to circumvent the suicide clause in Sara Dearing's policy.
What's that?
Policy is not payable if the insured dies by her own hand, Sheriff.
Your tone implies that I was unaware of that fact, Mr. Dollar.
I'm not interested one way or the other. My job's finished. I'm reporting death by suicide to my company.
You haven't heard the full story, Mr. Dollar.
There's more?
Sara Dearing was not a suicide.
You just said she was.
I said Hilda thought she was.
Get to the point, Sheriff.
After Mattie Freeman and Neville Thomas paid Miss Dearing their usual birthday visit, she had another caller.
Who?
He's down the hall in the study. This way. Because of your skepticism, Mr. Dollar, I had to request the state police to get the man you're going to meet. While the hunt was going on, I knew you'd be tracking down Mattie Freeman and Thomas, that you'd dig into Miss Dearing's past, find things which would be misleading. Well, the maneuvering is over now. This gentleman can tell you the real truth about Sara Dearing's death. Mr. Dollar, this is Dr. James Harding.
Oh, so you're Dollar, huh?
That's right.
You've caused a lot of trouble, Dollar. Broke up the first vacation I've had in 10 years.
I'm sorry, but there's a matter of $100,000.
Please don't interrupt. I've got to be back in Beverly Hills by noon. Got patients waiting.
Well, then get to the point, Doctor.
All right. I've got a little hideout in the desert. That's where the state police found me. I was on my way there the day Sara Dearing died. I had to pass through Palma, so I stopped off to see her.
Dr. Harding was her physician, Mr. Dollar.
And a very old friend. I was about 7 when I drove up. I found her alone. She'd had a sudden attack. She was dying.
Dying?
Sara Dearing had been dying for years, Mr. Dollar. I won't go into the medical details. Suffice it to say, her courage couldn't hold off the inevitable any longer. As she was feeling fast and great pain.
So you gave her the sedative?
Yes. She died quietly.
Then Jim came down to my office to report her death. I was out on a call.
I didn't want to wait, so I filled out a death certificate, left it with a note on Dan's desk, and then drove on to my desert place.
Meanwhile, Hilda returned home from the movies, found Miss Dearing dead, and the bottle of sedative Jim had forgotten. The rest you know, Mr. Dollar.
Well, it's none of my affair or my company's. But just for the record, why did you report Sara Dearing died as a result of the fire?
If I'd reported the real truth, then I would have had to charge a very devoted servant and companion with arson.
But Hilda did set the fire, Sheriff, and arson is a crime.
Mr. Dollar, do you think Hilda committed a crime?
Well, legally, yes, but morally, well, as I said, it's none of my affair, is it? Goodbye, gentlemen.
Goodbye, Mr. Dollar.
Expense account item number 4. $5 to check out of the Palma hotel room I never had the chance to use. Item 5, $51.75, gas, oil, and rental on the convertible. Item number 6, $150, plane fare and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $372.25. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Tom Benson, Johnny. How fast can you get to Kansas City, Missouri?
Why?
Maybe you can stop a homicide.
Well, that sounds worthwhile. What's the dope?
We underwrite complete insurance coverage for the Paterson Transport Corporation. They handle a parcel delivery service for most of the department stores in town.
Well, that should be profitable, but hardly deadly.
There have been 6 robberies and beatings involving their drivers in the past week, Johnny. Apparently one guy is responsible, and he's gotten increasingly brutal with each holdup.
How far has he gone?
The last holdup was yesterday afternoon. He went berserk. The driver's in the hospital with 5 broken ribs and a fractured skull. If this guy isn't caught, it's only a question of time before he kills somebody.
I'll take the first plane out.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? In 1884, with a limited education and practically no experience in national affairs, he was elected president at the age of 48. During his administration, an income tax was passed, but declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. And Coxey's army made its first march on the Capitol as a protest against unemployment. It was also during his administration that the Presidential Succession Bill was passed, which indicated the line of succession to the presidency from the president down through the cabinet. If you don't have his name by now, here are 2 more clues. He was the first president to be married in the White House and the only president to serve 2 non-successive terms. Who was he? Grover Cleveland, 22nd and 24th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Eastern Indemnity and Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Paterson Transport Matter. Expense account item 1, $73.20. Airfare and incidentals between Hartford, Connecticut and Kansas City, Missouri. I was met at the airport by Walt Hendricks, Vice President and General Manager of Paterson Transport.
It's a rough one, Dollar. 6 holdups in the week. Over $3,700 in COD money stolen. 3 drivers beaten so badly they can't work. One of them in the hospital in critical condition. Real rough one.
I understand one man has been pulling the job, Mr. Hendricks.
Seems to stack up that way. So far, we haven't been able to do a blasted thing to stop him.
How's he operating?
Oh, it's like this. He buys something at a department store, has the package sent out COD to a vacant apartment or house. When the driver gets out there, he lowers the boom.
Mm-hmm. What about the police?
Well, since yesterday morning, they've had a plainclothesman riding the delivery trucks with the drivers.
Well, that should have brought results.
Yeah, we thought it would, too, till last night.
The driver that's laid up in the hospital?
Yeah. He got it in his own garage, coming home from a movie with his wife.
Hendricks dropped me off at the Muleback Hotel. He said the Paterson Transport Company would supply a car for my personal use. And it was there, ready and waiting after I finished checking in. I drove over to police headquarters at 1125 Locust Street, where Lieutenant Herman of the Robbery Division filled me in.
Well, there's a few things about this that make sense, Dollar. Not many, but a few.
Like what, Lieutenant?
The way he operates, for one, has a definite pattern. Every holdup's either at the far end of the driver's route or the last stop or two before he checks in for the day.
Sounds like he's pretty familiar with the delivery operation.
Yeah, that's what we figure. Maybe from the Paterson Transport end, maybe from the department stores. And then another thing. He's almost sure to be a psycho.
The way he's manhandled those drivers?
There wasn't any reason for beating them. Drivers all have orders not to resist. He gets increasingly brutal with every holdup. No sense to it, unless he's a psycho.
Mm-hmm. Any description on him?
Yeah, partial. Always wears a blue bandana handkerchief over his face. But here's what we've got on him for what it's worth.
Let's see, about 6 feet, 190 to 200 pounds, gray slouch hat, baggy gray suit. Has a noticeable limp in the right leg. Well, that's pretty general, but that limp might help tie him down.
I've got the personnel managers of Paterson and the department stores going over their records on the basis of that description. So far, they haven't come up with anything. But here's another angle. Take a look at this map.
Yeah, sure.
Now, the first robbery took place out here, 4300 block on Seneca. The next, here, at Observation Park. And one here on Cypress. The next at 32nd Terrace. Then 54th and Jackson.
Well, that makes a rough circle around the city. What's he been doing, moving from route to route in a definite pattern?
That's it. Hitting one driver after another in turn.
Well, then you should know who's liable to be next on the list.
We do. Driver by the name of Milton Spears. He's got the Southwest Territory down here. If the man we're after follows his pattern, we'll get him. But if he breaks it like he did last night...
Yeah.
That's about all I can tell you now, Dollar. We're hoping this guy will try again with our men riding the trucks. It's our best bet for getting him. And even if he doesn't, maybe we can... Oh, hi, Grayson.
Lieutenant, we just got a report over in Traffic Division. One of the Paterson Company's trucks was in an accident on Anderson Avenue.
What kind of accident?
Well, apparently the truck got out of control, smashed into a parked car along the curb. The driver was killed.
What about our man?
He didn't have anybody assigned to it. The truck had been in for repair, and the driver was just road testing it. Doesn't sound like it ties in with a holdup. I thought you'd better know.
Well, thanks, Grayson. Let me see the complete report when you get it in.
Yeah, sure, Lieutenant.
Say, Sergeant.
Yeah?
Did you get the name of the driver who was killed?
Yeah, we got it. The name was Spears. Milton Spears.
When we got to the scene of the accident, an ambulance and squad car were already there. One of the squad car men filled us in on what they'd learned.
He was heading east on Anderson here, Lieutenant. Then for some reason he suddenly cramped the wheel to the right and plowed into that Buick there at the curb.
He must have been going at a pretty good clip. Burned a lot of rubber off on the street when he swung in here.
Yeah. What did the ambulance men have to say?
He was dead when they got here. Didn't look as though the crash killed him. No impact wasn't heavy enough for that. I think he might have had a heart attack.
Uh-huh. Any witnesses?
No eyewitnesses, Lieutenant. There's a lady over there wants to talk to you.
Okay, ask her to come over. And have them take the body down to the morgue for an immediate autopsy. I want the results on it as soon as possible.
Okay, Lieutenant.
Oh, how does it hit you, Dollar?
Well, a couple of things don't quite add up.
Take him down to the
Like what?
boys, and have them...
Well, why he was road testing a truck on a quiet residential street. Why he was going fast enough to make heavy skid marks like that.
And why it had to happen to a driver by the name of Milton Spears.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the autopsy will give us something to go on.
Yeah, maybe.
Here's the lady I was telling you about, Lieutenant. Mrs. Robertson.
How do you do, Mrs. Robertson? I understand you have something to tell us.
I should say I do have something to tell you, Lieutenant. It's about time you police officers did something to protect the interests of our citizens. We've got rights, you know, and it's your duty to see that they're protected.
I'm not sure I understand.
No, I didn't think you would. Things have come to a pretty pass when a taxpayer can't leave a car parked out on the street without some drunken truck driver smashing it to pieces. It's your duty to see that such reckless, incompetent drivers are kept off our streets and highways.
You're the owner of the Buick that was hit, Mrs. Robertson?
Well, isn't that just what I've been telling you, young man? And believe me, somebody is going to pay for the damage done to my car. and for the shock and damage caused to my nerves.
Did you see the accident take place, Mrs. Robertson?
No, I didn't see it. But not that I had to. I was upstairs in my apartment over there, playing whist with some friends.
Then what makes you think the driver was drunk or irresponsible?
Of course he was. What other explanation could there be? Smashing into a person's car like that in broad daylight on a quiet street. There's not the slightest doubt in my mind. Both of them were drunk.
Then there was somebody else in the truck besides the driver?
Well, of course there was.
How do you know, Mrs. Robertson?
Oh, because I saw him, that's why. I looked out of my window and saw him. A big, husky man he was. He got out of the truck right after the crash and went limping off down the street.
Additional questioning of the excitable Mrs. Robertson brought no further information. We got the same results from the other residents of Anderson Avenue. The men from the lab arrived and started working on the truck and Buick for possible physical evidence, and we went back to police headquarters.
No need for you to stick around, Dollar, unless you want to. We won't be getting the autopsy report on Spears for another hour or two.
Well, I thought I might look over the driver's statements on the robbery, Lieutenant. Maybe something will hit me.
Oh, sure. I'll have Grayson dig them out for you.
Yes, sir?
Grayson, will you get out the driver's statements in the Paterson Transport files? Mr. Dollar would like to look them over.
Well, I've got them right here, Lieutenant. Adding another report to the list.
What's that?
Got a call from General Hospital. The driver who was beaten up last night just died.
I went over the driver's statements and the official investigation reports. Lieutenant Herman and his men had covered every angle I could think of, and a couple they hadn't. When I got through, the autopsy on Milton Spears hadn't been completed yet, so I drove out to the Paterson Transport Company in the Northeast Industrial District. I found Walt Hendricks in the offices of the company, which were located to one side of their busy garage.
Oh, that's a terrible thing about Milt Spears, Dollar. A terrible thing. Man had been with us for 15 years. Perfect safety record, and gets himself killed in an accident that way.
If it was an accident.
Well, you think it's connected with the holdups?
We'll know more about it when we get the autopsy report.
Well, I suppose it could tie in.
According to the pattern, Spears was the next driver due to get hit.
Sure, and if it had happened while Spears was out on the route, I'd say okay, but he wasn't.
Just what was he doing, Mr. Hendricks?
Well, his truck broke down, the clutch linkage. We sent a substitute out. When the garage got through, Milt took the truck out to road test it.
Anybody go with him?
No. Milt was a good mechanic. No reason to send anybody along. And we don't allow our men to pick up any riders or hitchhikers. No, there couldn't have been anybody in the truck with him.
Well, maybe he picked up somebody he knew.
Well, a possibility, I suppose. I don't know, Dollar. This thing's got me so busy I can't think straight at all. Well, I guess there's one consolation, though.
Yeah, what's that?
If you count Spears, every driver in the organization's been hit by now. Unless he starts over again, this guy has any place to go.
I'll give you 8 to 5. He'll think of something. It was getting late in the afternoon, so I figured I'd pay one more visit to headquarters before going back to the hotel and knocking off for the day. As I walked into Lieutenant Herman's office, he was just finishing a phone call.
Okay, Doc. Thanks for the fast report. I'll buy you a dinner someday if you're lucky enough to catch up with me. Oh, hi, Dollar. That was Doc Winters, autopsy surgeon. There was a .22 caliber bullet in Milton Spears' brain.
Wow. Nothing very accidental about that, is there?
Not likely. Fired at close range behind the right ear. Point of penetration was covered by hair. Bullet lodged in the bone. That's why the ambulance attendants didn't catch it.
No wonder he crashed the truck.
Yeah. We'll have ballistics examine the bullet. Don't know that they'll come up with anything, though. Well, it's been a long day. What do you say we go out and have a bite to eat?
I'll buy that, Lieutenant.
There's a good steakhouse right down. Lieutenant Herman. I remember. We'll be right there. Now, let's roll, Dollar.
What's up?
Remember that Mrs. Robertson?
The woman who owned the smashed-up Buick?
Yeah. She just saw the man we were after. He's out in front of her place right now.
Mind if I cut in to say something, fellows? It won't take too long, since a word to the wise is sufficient. And in the English language, there is one word which is important to just about everyone in the world. That word is security. Security has several different meanings, however. Usually, we think of it in connection with the protecting of our military installations and defense industries. But it means more than that. There is a security which applies to every man, woman, and child in America. The security which comes from being in good health, having a good education, and being well taken care of in case things get a little too tough to handle by oneself. This kind of security is the problem of the President's newest cabinet member, the Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare. This department ties together the work of several governmental agencies. First, there is the United States Public Health Service, which strives to make certain that the general health of the people in our country is in the best of condition. Then there is the Food and Drug Administration, which guarantees that the food we eat is pure and safe to eat. The Social Security Board, which takes care of old people, children, and the blind who need assistance, also comes under the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, as does the United States Office of Education. This office does research on the educational possibilities, changes, and opportunities, and passes on its information to the various state boards of education. As you can see, the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare is one of the most important agencies in our government, assuring us, as it does, of a normal and healthy way of life.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
When Lieutenant Herman and I got out to the Anderson Avenue address, Mrs. Robertson was waiting for us in the vestibule of the apartment building.
It's the man, I tell you. The very same man who got out of the truck that smashed my car. And I want you to arrest him at once, do you hear?
If he's a man, we'll arrest him, Mrs. Robertson.
Of course he's a man. I ought to know. I saw him get out of the truck and limp down the street. And I saw him again just before I called you.
What was he doing, Mrs. Robertson?
Looking over my car, that's what. The nerve of him. A criminal returning to the scene of his crime.
There's no doubt about the identification.
I told you there wasn't, didn't I? A big, heavy-set man, dressed in a gray suit, walking with a limp. He's the man, all right.
Where is he now?
Oh, where would a man like that be? I told you he was drunk when he smashed into my car. He went into that bar at the corner.
At the bar.
Yeah. Only guy in the place answers the description.
You want to take him over there?
As good a place as any. Police officers, keep your hands on the bar.
Hey, what's going on here?
Hands on the bar. Shake him down, Dollar.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think you're doing, Mac? I ain't got no rod on me.
How about it?
He's clean, Lieutenant.
Sure, I'm clean. I told you I was, didn't I? Now, what do you guys want with me?
What's your name, mister?
What's it to you?
Your name.
Wesley, Gerald Wesley.
Where do you live?
I ain't decided yet. Just got into town.
What are you doing in this neighborhood?
Look, you guys ain't got nothing on me. A guy's got a right to come in and have a drink without coppers hopping all over him.
Why the interest in the car, Wesley?
What car?
The smashed-up Buick down the street.
Who's interested in a smashed Buick?
You were. You were looking at it. Why?
So I looked at it. Any law against that?
Man was killed when that car was hit, Wesley.
So what's that got to do with me?
We've got a witness who says you were involved in the accident.
Your witness is nuts. All I was doing was walking down the street. I seen the car, took a gander at it.
We'll talk it over downtown, Wesley.
There ain't nothing to talk. I didn't have nothing to do with that car or somebody getting bumped off.
You heard the lieutenant. We'll talk about it downtown.
Might as well come clean, Wesley. Make it easier on yourself.
There's nothing to come clean about. I told you, coppers, that you ain't got nothing on me.
We've got a witness who says different.
I told you he's lying. I never been in that neighborhood before.
What did you do with the gun?
What gun?
The one you used to knock off Milton Spears.
I never had a gun. And I never heard of the Spears. Now, why don't you guys lay off and let me out of here?
Pretty good racket you had, Wesley. How'd you happen to think of it?
What racket?
The parcel delivery gimmick.
You nuts or something? I didn't have nothing to do with them Paterson trucks.
We didn't mention the name of the outfit, Wesley.
So you didn't mention it.
Then how'd you know what we were talking about?
I can read the papers, can't I? They've been full of them parcel delivery stick-ups.
You know more about it than that. Come on, let's have it, Wesley.
I tell you, nuts. I just got into town yesterday.
From where?
California.
Where in California?
Folsom.
We can check on that, Wesley.
So check. You'll find out it's like I said. You ain't got a thing on me, coppers. Not a lousy thing.
Lieutenant Herman sent in a teletype request for verification from Folsom, along with telephoto copies of Wesley's prints for comparison. We got the answer back in an hour.
Well, there it is, Dollar. Wesley wasn't sprung from Folsom until yesterday morning. Served his full time.
We made one more check. We had Mrs. Robertson try to pick out the man she'd seen from a lineup including Wesley and 6 police officers. She made a positive identification of Sergeant Grayson. Expense account item 2, $17.85, dinner and drinks for Lieutenant Herman and myself. Afterwards, the lieutenant called it quits for the night, and I headed for the Paterson garage. I wanted to talk with Walt Hendricks again.
Lucky to catch me in, Dollar. Don't usually work this late, but it's different tonight.
Well, what's different about it, Mr. Hendricks?
I've got some drivers to get. A couple of substitutes for those who are laid up. 2 permanent ones.
Yeah. Well, I won't take up too much of your time. I just want to get a few things straight.
Sure, go ahead.
It's pretty obvious that whoever we're after knows the operation of this business. That means he knew he wasn't going to get much of a take on those morning stick-ups. The drivers hadn't time to collect many CODs.
No, but he got over 3,700 on the afternoon job. Nothing wrong with that.
I don't say there is. But it's possible that money is only the frosting on the cake.
Thinking that somebody might have a grudge against the outfit?
Well, there's enough evidence to support it. The systematic way he's gone after the drivers, the beatings he's dished out for no apparent reason.
Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing.
Come up with any ideas?
No, not a one. Company's always had a good labor record, never any fuss with competitors. I even checked with Mrs. Thompson about it.
Who's Mrs. Thompson?
Oh, she worked here for almost 20 years as my assistant and secretary. Had an auto accident about 6 months ago. Left her crippled.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. But she knows the business as well as I do, so I thought maybe she'd come up with something.
Have any luck?
Nothing. I even talked to her husband about it.
Did he work for the outfit, too?
No, but he got to know it pretty well through her. And he figured it the same way we do. But he couldn't come up with anything either. He did try to warn Milt Spears, though.
How was that?
Well, he had the guy's pattern figured out, too, and knew Milt might be next. So we warned him to be careful.
Mrs. Thompson's husband was here at the garage before Milt Spears left?
Yeah, that's right. He drove up just a few minutes before Milt took off to road test the truck.
I went back to the hotel and put in a call to Tom Benson in Hartford. In the company's interest, he was willing to bust up his bridge game and go down to the office. He called me back in about 45 minutes with the information I wanted.
The accident took place last Christmas Eve, Johnny. Thompsons were leaving a party at the Paterson offices. Apparently, the husband had a little too much to drink. Drove out of the garage too fast, skidded as he hit the street, and wound up on the wrong side. One of the delivery trucks was just coming in. They met head on.
Uh-huh. What's the medical report say?
Well, the driver of the truck was killed outright. Mrs. Thompson suffered 2 broken vertebrae, left her permanently crippled. We paid all medical expenses. She got a life income of $100 a month.
What about the husband?
He was in the hospital up until a couple of weeks ago. Had a depressed skull fracture, bad compound fracture of the right tibia. Outside of that, he should be as good as new. Help you any, Johnny?
I wouldn't be surprised. The Thompson home was a modest frame bungalow on Prospect Avenue, less than a half mile from the Paterson garage.
I was met at the door by a practical nurse who checked with Mrs. Thompson and then led me into the bedroom to see her.
It was awfully kind of you to call on me this way, Mr. Dollar. And I want you to know that Charlie and I are very appreciative of everything your company has done for us.
You're only getting what you're entitled to, Mrs. Thompson.
Well, perhaps. But when you've been used to making your own way of life, earning your own living, then suddenly find yourself in a position like I'm in, well, it's awfully nice to know that there are people like you around.
Well, thanks, Mrs. Thompson. Is your husband at home?
I'm dreadfully sorry, but he left just a few minutes ago. And you did want to talk to him about those robberies, didn't you?
What makes you think that?
Oh, Mr. Hendricks told me you were in town. And Charlie's been so interested in those holdups. Well, he just feels terrible about those poor drivers, you know.
No, I didn't.
Oh, yes. Just terrible. He's been so worried about them ever since the trouble began. Well, he even wanted to ride along with some of them on their routes to help protect them.
Is that so?
Yes, he's felt that way, you know, protective about them ever since that accident happened to us. Some men might have felt the driver was to blame that night, might have felt resentful toward them because of what happened to me, but not Charlie. He's a wonderfully forgiving man, Mr. Dollar.
Where is your husband now?
Yes. He even had a presentiment about what was going to happen to them after the holdup started. He told me he was afraid that robber would go from one driver to the next, beating them, perhaps even killing them. He even made a list of the ones he was afraid would be hurt.
Where is he now, Mrs. Thompson?
That's why he went out tonight, Mr. Dollar. He's determined he won't let anything like that happen again. That's why he went out to protect him.
To protect who?
Well, the next one on his list, of course. My former employer, Mr. Hendricks.
The phone was in the living room. I put in 2 fast calls. The first to police headquarters.
We'll have a car right out, Dollar.
The second was to the Paterson garage to warn Hendricks. The garage was only a few short blocks away, and I made it before the squad car did. There was a light in Hendricks' office, but it was empty. I tried the darkened garage next. Thompson? Is that you, Thompson? Thompson?
What's going on out there? What's the shooting about?
It's Dollar, Hendricks.
Dollar?
Yeah. Throw some lights on, will you?
Yeah, sure. What's going on here, Dollar? What are you... Oh, Charlie Thompson.
Yeah. Where were you?
In the back room. But Charlie, what happened?
Well, somebody had to stop him from protecting you. Expense account item 3, $22.10. Hotel bill and miscellaneous. Expense account item 4, $71.30, airfare back to Hartford. Expense account total, $184.45. Remarks: when ballistics verified that Thompson's .22 Colt had killed Milton Spears, my official job was over. My unofficial one, informing Mrs. Thompson, wasn't nearly as easy. I guess I got a little confused. It's the only way I can account for the fact that she believes her husband died a hero, getting the bandit single-handed. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.